Leslie Stephen was a significant figure in British intellectual history. His life and work contributed vastly to literature, philosophy, history, and even the intellectual currents of his time. His reflections, essays, and contributions continue to influence readers, scholars, and thinkers. But it is not just Stephen's academic work that offers valuable life lessons. His personal struggles and resilience provide essential insights that can guide us through various challenges in life. In this video, we will explore life lessons drawn from his life and intellectual journey. The life and legacy of Leslie Stephen. Leslie Stephen was born into a well-educated, intellectual family, but his life was marred by both privilege and personal tragedy. Despite these hardships, he became a significant intellectual figure who contributed substantially to British thought, particularly in philosophy, literature, and history. His career as a writer, editor, and historian influenced a number of future thinkers, including his daughter Virginia Woolf, one of the most important literary figures of the 20th century. Stephen's ideas were shaped by personal grief, intellectual curiosity, and a desire for personal and social progress. His writings, particularly on topics like religion, philosophy, and English history, are filled with thoughtful reflections on the complexities of life and human nature. As we explore his life in more detail, we'll uncover several life lessons he learned through his struggles and triumphs. 2. The value of intellectual curiosity. Intellectual exploration and growth. Leslie Stephen's commitment to intellectual curiosity was evident throughout his life. He was deeply passionate about acquiring knowledge and engaging with the ideas of the time. From a young age, Stephen was exposed to academic rigor, attending prestigious institutions like Eton and Cambridge. However, his intellectual pursuits were never limited to his formal education. Stephen's vast range of interests, from history to philosophy, and literature to science, illustrates the breadth of his curiosity. In his later career, Stephen engaged with many of the great intellectual debates of his time, contributing essays on subjects ranging from the history of thought to religious skepticism. His intellectual growth was a result of his eagerness to explore new ideas, challenge the existing knowledge, and continue learning throughout his life. The importance of lifelong learning. One of the key aspects of Stephen's intellectual journey was his refusal to stop learning. He was always curious, always reading and writing. Stephen believed that intellectual growth was a lifelong pursuit. His capacity to continue contributing to intellectual debates in his later years shows the importance of lifelong learning and the power of sustained intellectual engagement. He wrote extensively on topics like historical thought, literature, and philosophical inquiry, offering new insights and critically engaging with existing narratives. This commitment to lifelong learning allowed him to maintain a profound influence well into his later years. Challenging established beliefs. Stephen's intellectual curiosity often led him to challenge prevailing social and cultural norms. One of the most notable examples of this was his skeptical approach to religion. Raised in a society where religion was a central part of life, Stephen did not adhere to traditional religious beliefs. Instead, he questioned religious dogma and embraced a rational, empirical worldview. His writings on religion, particularly in the history of English thought in the 18th century, illustrated his critical stance toward established religious and philosophical doctrines. Stephen's willingness to question established norms set him apart from many of his contemporaries, and his critical engagement with ideas created space for intellectual progress and reform. Life lesson: never stop learning and questioning the world around you. Intellectual curiosity is the key to personal growth and societal change. 3. Resilience in the face of adversity. Personal tragedy and loss. Leslie Stephen's life was marred by personal tragedies that shaped his worldview. The death of his first wife, Harriet, had a profound effect on him, leaving him devastated. Later, the death of his son, Toby, compounded his grief and deepened his emotional struggles. These losses were not just emotional burdens, but they also had a lasting impact on his health, causing him significant periods of depression. However, Stephen did not allow these personal tragedies to define or isolate him. Instead, they became the backdrop to much of his intellectual work, allowing him to reflect on grief, human suffering, and the fragility of life. His struggles with loss and mental health also resonated with many of his contemporaries, and his honesty in discussing them allowed for a greater understanding of emotional resilience. B. Coping with mental health. During the Victorian era, mental health was often misunderstood or ignored, but Stephen was open about his own struggles with depression. He sought medical treatment and spoke candidly about his emotional difficulties, which was a rare approach in his time. His ability to articulate his emotional challenges and still continue his work demonstrates the importance of acknowledging and dealing with mental health in a constructive way. Stephen's ability to keep working despite his personal pain serves as a testament to his resilience. He found solace in his writing, intellectual pursuits, and his relationships, and these became tools for him to process his grief and emotional struggles. C. Commitment to work despite struggles. Despite his personal struggles, Stephen remained committed to his intellectual endeavors. He continued to write prolifically, producing works on philosophy, history, and literature. His commitment to his work was not an escape from his grief but rather an avenue for him to engage with his emotions, reflect on them, and communicate his experiences to a broader audience. Stephen's ability to remain productive during his darkest times underscores the importance of perseverance in the face of adversity. He recognized that emotional pain could be a source of intellectual insight, and he used his struggles as a catalyst for deeper reflections. Life lesson: resilience is not the absence of pain, but the ability to continue moving forward despite it. Life's hardships can be overcome by maintaining your focus on your passions and purpose. 4. The importance of writing and reflection. A. Writing as a tool for personal reflection. For Stephen, writing was not just a professional activity, it was an essential tool for personal reflection and emotional processing. His diaries, essays, and articles reflect his inner world, providing a window into his thoughts, fears, and desires. Writing helped him organize his thoughts and engage deeply with his experiences. Stephen's reflective writing provided him with a space to explore his own beliefs, reconcile his feelings of loss, and address the intellectual and emotional questions that troubled him. This process of self-reflection allowed him to work through difficult emotions and, in many ways, to heal. B. Intellectual clarity through writing. Stephen's intellectual clarity was enhanced through his writing. His ability to express complex philosophical and historical ideas in a structured, accessible way was rooted in his habit of writing as a method of intellectual clarification. Stephen often wrote about subjects that he was still grappling with, using the act of writing as a way to sort through uncertainties and ambiguities. His writings on the history of English thought and religious skepticism are examples of how writing can be a vehicle for organizing complex ideas. Writing not only helped him clarify his own thinking, but it also offered his readers a pathway to understanding difficult concepts. C. The role of writing in self-expression. Stephen's writing was also an outlet for personal expression. He was able to use his essays, letters, and articles to explore his own emotions, making his work not just intellectually rigorous, but also deeply personal. This openness allowed readers to connect with him on an emotional level, seeing the humanity behind the intellectual arguments. Stephen's work reminds us that writing can be a form of emotional release, and a way to communicate our personal experiences in a meaningful way. It provides a safe space to express thoughts that may otherwise go unspoken. Life lesson: writing can be a powerful tool for both intellectual development and emotional healing. It allows us to better understand ourselves and the world around us. Balancing personal and professional life. The struggle between career and family. Leslie Stephen's life was characterized by a constant struggle to balance his demanding career with his personal responsibilities. As a scholar, writer, and editor, Stephen was often consumed by his work, which left him little time for his family. This imbalance created tensions in his personal relationships, especially with his second wife and children. While Stephen's intellectual work was fulfilling, he sometimes neglected the emotional needs of those closest to him. This struggle highlights the difficulty of maintaining a work-life balance, particularly for individuals who are deeply passionate about their careers. The tension between duty and desire. Stephen often felt torn between his intellectual pursuits and the emotional demands of family life. He recognized the importance of both but found it difficult to give equal attention to both realms. Over time, however, Stephen began to recognize the importance of family life, and he worked to make amends by being more involved with his children, especially with his daughter, Virginia Woolf. This tension between professional ambition and personal duty is something many people can relate to, and it serves as a reminder of the need to nurture both personal and professional relationships. The role of support systems. One of the most significant relationships in Stephen's later life was his relationship with Virginia Woolf. Despite his earlier struggles with balancing family and work, Stephen's support for Woolf's writing was unwavering. His encouragement and mentorship were crucial in Woolf's development as a writer, and their intellectual exchange helped to shape her own literary voice. Stephen's relationship with Woolf demonstrates the importance of creating and maintaining support systems, especially with loved ones who share similar intellectual or creative interests. A strong support system can be an essential anchor during times of personal or professional challenge. Life lesson: work-life balance is challenging but essential. Nurturing personal relationships can provide the support and stability needed to succeed in professional endeavors. 6. Seek the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Stephen's commitment to skepticism. Leslie Stephen was a staunch skeptic, particularly when it came to religious and metaphysical claims. Raised in a society that upheld religious beliefs as unquestionable truths, Stephen's skepticism led him to reject the idea of blind faith. He was deeply committed to the rational and empirical investigation of truth, believing that intellectual inquiry must be grounded in reason. His work, including the history of English thought in the 18th century and his critiques of religious doctrines, shows his commitment to seeking the truth, no matter how uncomfortable or contentious it might be. His skepticism was not an attack on religion itself but rather a call to approach all claims, religious, political, or scientific, with scrutiny and reason. Challenging tradition and authority. Stephen's work was radical in its critique of traditional authority, particularly religious institutions. In an era where religious orthodoxy shaped much of British society, Stephen's willingness to question and challenge these norms was seen as controversial. His skepticism and critique of established truths placed him at odds with many of his contemporaries, but it also laid the foundation for more progressive and secular thinking in the years to come. Stephen's writings remind us that challenging tradition and questioning authority is necessary for intellectual and social progress. His life teaches that truth often requires confronting uncomfortable realities. The courage to face uncertainty. Stephen was well aware that the pursuit of truth often leads to more questions than answers. His philosophy embraced the uncertainty inherent in intellectual inquiry. Rather than shying away from these uncertainties, he believed they were essential to deepening our understanding of the world. His courage to face intellectual discomfort is a valuable lesson in the importance of perseverance in the search for truth. Life lesson: the search for truth often requires confronting discomfort and uncertainty. Embrace this discomfort as part of the process of personal and intellectual growth. 7. The legacy of mentorship and influence. Influence on Virginia Woolf. One of the most lasting aspects of Leslie Stephen's legacy is his role in shaping the career of his daughter, Virginia Woolf. Stephen's intellectual rigor, emotional support, and encouragement were critical in Woolf's development as a writer. He provided her with the tools to think critically and the confidence to pursue her own literary career. Woolf often reflected on the influence of her father in her own work, and she credited him with sparking her intellectual curiosity. Broader cultural influence. Beyond his immediate family, Leslie Stephen's work influenced broader intellectual and cultural currents. His editorial work on the Dictionary of National Biography and his historical writings helped shape the academic landscape of his time. His commitment to skepticism, rationalism, and reason left a lasting imprint on both British intellectual thought and the broader cultural discourse. Supporting the next generation. Stephen's mentorship was not limited to his daughter. Throughout his life, he supported the intellectual development of others, fostering a space for creative and critical expression. He recognized the value of nurturing the next generation of thinkers, writers, and intellectuals, and he took an active role in supporting their growth. Life lesson: mentorship is an essential part of leaving a lasting legacy. By supporting and guiding the next generation, you can help shape the future of thought and creativity. 9. The role of doubt and uncertainty in growth. Embracing doubt as a path to discovery. Leslie Stephen was deeply engaged with the idea of intellectual doubt. A major theme in his work, especially in relation to religion, philosophy, and history, was the acceptance that doubt is an essential part of intellectual and personal growth. Instead of viewing doubt as something negative or unsettling, Stephen saw it as a tool for deeper inquiry and discovery. Stephen's skepticism, particularly his rejection of dogma and religious certainty, encouraged a more nuanced and complex understanding of truth. He believed that the act of doubting, of questioning everything, was vital for intellectual development. This lesson of embracing doubt, rather than fearing it, was pivotal in his approach to philosophy and life. Challenging the comfort of certainty. Many people live their lives in pursuit of certainty, whether in religion, science, or personal beliefs. However, Stephen's writings reveal that certainty often limits personal and intellectual growth. By embracing doubt, Stephen allowed himself to constantly reevaluate his thoughts, beliefs, and the world around him. For Stephen, certainty in knowledge was a temporary illusion, and it was only through doubt that genuine understanding could evolve. One of the most significant ways this doubt played out in Stephen's life was in his critique of the religious dogma of his time. The Victorian era, steeped in religious tradition, did not easily accommodate skepticism. Yet, Stephen's willingness to question everything, including deeply ingrained societal beliefs, allowed for intellectual exploration that spanned multiple disciplines and ideas. Applying doubt to personal and professional growth. Doubt also had a role to play in Stephen's professional life. While he was well respected as an intellectual, Stephen did not rest on his laurels. He continually questioned the status quo of intellectual thought, even within his own field. Whether in his role as an editor for the Dictionary of National Biography or in his philosophical writings, Stephen always sought to ensure that he was not being overly influenced by the prevailing opinions of his time. Life lesson: doubt is not a weakness but a vital tool for growth. Embrace uncertainty, challenge your beliefs, and allow room for deeper understanding to emerge. The importance of emotional honesty and self-awareness. Acknowledging emotional struggles. One of the most compelling aspects of Leslie Stephen's life was his emotional honesty. During a time when discussing mental health and personal suffering was often taboo, Stephen was remarkably open about his struggles. His first wife's death, his struggles with depression, and the emotional toll of raising his family were all discussed with a level of transparency that was rare for the Victorian period. Stephen's emotional openness was not a sign of weakness but rather an indication of his deep self-awareness. He did not shy away from addressing his own flaws and vulnerabilities. This sense of emotional honesty allowed him to better understand himself and his emotional responses to life's challenges. The role of self-reflection in personal growth. Self-awareness and reflection were also critical in Stephen's personal development. He frequently used writing as a way to process his emotions, often penning journal entries or reflective essays that exposed his innermost thoughts and feelings. This emotional clarity not only helped him heal from grief but also offered insights into the human condition that were deeply personal yet universally relatable. Stephen's ability to reflect on his emotional state and articulate his feelings serves as a reminder that understanding oneself, through writing, talking, or introspection, is a key to personal growth. Without self-awareness, it is difficult to navigate the complexities of life and make informed decisions about the future. The power of vulnerability in leadership and relationships. Stephen's emotional honesty had a profound effect on those around him. His relationship with his daughter, Virginia Woolf, is an example of how vulnerability can strengthen bonds. Woolf often credited her father with fostering her intellectual curiosity and supporting her emotional well-being. By being emotionally present and honest, Stephen created an environment where his children, especially Virginia, felt safe to explore their own thoughts and emotions. Stephen's example teaches us that vulnerability and emotional honesty can strengthen relationships, both professional and personal. His capacity to engage with his own emotions in a candid manner allowed him to be a more supportive father, friend, and mentor. Life lesson: emotional honesty is a cornerstone of personal growth. Acknowledging and understanding your emotional struggles fosters resilience and strengthens relationships. 11. The value of intellectual independence. Thinking for oneself. Leslie Stephen was a staunch advocate for intellectual independence. Throughout his life, he consistently emphasized the importance of thinking for oneself and not simply following the intellectual crowd. His skepticism toward religious dogma, his critical analysis of historical thought, and his rejection of unchallenged societal beliefs reflect a deep commitment to intellectual autonomy. Rather than relying on popular opinions or accepted truths, Stephen encouraged others to cultivate independent thinking and engage with ideas on their own terms. His commitment to intellectual independence was not born of a desire to be contrarian but from a deep belief in the importance of rational thought and critical inquiry. He understood that intellectual growth depends on the ability to challenge conventional wisdom and forge one's own path. Defying societal expectations. Stephen's intellectual independence also manifested in his willingness to defy the societal norms of his time. Victorian society was heavily influenced by religious tradition and moral codes, and Stephen's questioning of these traditions often put him at odds with prevailing social standards. His decision to reject religion, for example, made him a figure of some controversy, as did his views on the relationship between science and spirituality. This defiance of societal expectations, however, was not rooted in a desire to rebel for the sake of rebellion. It was instead a conscious decision to prioritize truth, reason, and individual thought over societal approval. By doing so, Stephen set an example for others who were willing to challenge the status quo in order to engage with the world more authentically. C. Nurturing intellectual autonomy in others. Stephen's commitment to intellectual independence extended beyond his own work. He sought to nurture this quality in others, particularly in his children. As a father, Stephen encouraged Virginia Woolf to think critically, read widely, and develop her own literary voice. He valued intellectual autonomy and worked to instill these values in the next generation. Stephen's life demonstrates that intellectual independence is not only important for personal growth but for the development of society as a whole. By encouraging others to think independently and critically, we help create a culture of inquiry and innovation. Life lesson: intellectual independence is essential for growth and progress. Cultivate the ability to think for yourself, challenge established norms, and nurture the intellectual autonomy of those around you. Conclusion: revisiting the legacy of Leslie Stephen. Leslie Stephen's life was defined by his unwavering intellectual curiosity, his courage to confront personal tragedies, and his deep commitment to self-reflection and emotional honesty. His life lessons, embracing doubt, nurturing intellectual independence, and finding strength in vulnerability, serve as a timeless guide for those seeking to live a thoughtful and meaningful life. Stephen's legacy extends beyond his academic contributions. It is his ability to wrestle with life's challenges, articulate complex ideas, and live with emotional transparency that makes his lessons so relevant today. In embracing these lessons, we are reminded that the pursuit of truth, the importance of intellectual curiosity, and the need for resilience in the face of adversity are essential to living a life well lived.